Hi everyone, I'm addressing you from Istanbul, Turkey. Today we're going to talk about the flavors of Anatolia. Turkish cuisine is one of the best in the world, especially for those people who have been to Turkey and who have had the chance to try some of our cuisine in Turkey. Well, my name is Sherif Yenen. Let me just introduce myself for a few minutes. I'm a tour guide and I have been doing this job for more than 30 years now with great enthusiasm. And one of my specialty tours is the food tours. I love doing food tours, not only in Istanbul, also all over Turkey for multi-day tours as well. And also I wrote quite a few guidebooks about Istanbul, about Turkey, and my prominent book is The Turkish Odyssey, which is being updated at the moment. And I have many other maps and booklets, pamphlets, videos, films about Istanbul and Turkey. Recently, I have been doing some part-time instruction at some universities of Turkey, and these are the Bosphorus University and the Bilgi University. Other than that, I'm an international speaker. I make speeches all around the world, from somewhere around Mongolia up until North America. I cover a wide geography there, and it is a great pleasure for me to share the beauties of our culture with the rest of the world. And also I am a travel agent in addition to being a tour guide. So whatever I do, everything is legal, and my travel agency is a small boutique tour company, tailoring tours, especially for private tours and special interest tours and so on. In order to understand the Turkish flavors better, we have to take a look at the geography of our country so that we can understand what kind of things have happened in our lands. And these things contributed a lot to the flavors of our country as well. Before we start speaking about the Turkish flavors of Anatolia, if you like, let's get oriented a little bit where Turkey is located and what is the geographical importance of our country on the food and so on. If you look at the map of the world, especially these three continents, this is Africa in here, and here is Asia, and this is Europe. Could you please tell me what is the middle point of these three continents? You see, the middle point of these three continents is actually Anatolia. It is Turkey. So there have been lots of migrations from here to there, and through all of these migrations of the civilizations and so on, through all of these migrations, Anatolia has always been a bridge, a crossroads, attracting the attention of many great civilizations throughout history. That's why there is a very deep cultural heritage in here, going as early as the Neolithic period, 10,000 BC. This is where the settled life started, and it all happened within these lands of Anatolia. Since then, there have been always civilizations living on these lands. If we just take a look at the map of Turkey a little bit, as you notice, it is rectangular in shape and surrounded by seas in three sides. In the north, we have the Black Sea, and in the west, it is the Aegean Sea. And here in the south, it is the Mediterranean Sea. And in between the Black Sea and the Aegean Sea, we have a small sea in here. It's called as the Sea of Marmara. So the Sea of Marmara is connected to the Black Sea with the Bosphorus Strait, and another strait connects the Sea of Marmara to the Aegean Sea. This is actually the border between Europe and Asia. So this land here is 3% of Turkey, and it belongs to Europe. And all the rest is 97%. And throughout history, the Asian part of Turkey, this 97%, has been named as Asia Minor or Anatolia. And Anatolia is a Greek word, and it means the land of sunrise. If you look at Anatolia from the Aegean, this was the place where the sun rose. That's why in the ancient Greek language, this land was named as the land of sunrise. As for our neighbors a little bit, we have Greece and Bulgaria in Europe, and we have Georgia Armenia, Iran in the east, and we have Iraq and Syria in the south. And size-wise, Turkey is very large in comparison to many of our neighboring countries, actually. From one end to the other end in the east, it is approximately 1,600 kilometers or 1,000 miles. So it gives you a sense. From one end to the other end, it's approximately 2 hours or 2.5 hours by flight. And the official capital of Turkey since 1923 is the year in which our republic, secular republic, was founded by our great leader, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk in 1923. He then moved the capital from Istanbul to Ankara. So since 1923, Ankara has been the official capital, and the population of Ankara is approximately 4.5 million, and it is the second largest city in Turkey. So the largest city is Istanbul. Istanbul is located on the two sides of the Bosphorus, which means one side of Istanbul is Europe and the other side is Asia. And this is also unique in here. The city of Istanbul was the capital during the Roman Empire. It continued to be the capital during the Byzantine Empire, after the Roman Empire was divided into two. The Eastern Roman Empire, which was also named as the Byzantine Empire. So Constantinople continued to be the capital for the Eastern Roman Empire. In 1453, it was the Turks who captured Constantinople, and they continued using Istanbul or Constantinople as the official capital. And within time, the name was changed from Constantinople into Istanbul. So Istanbul is the cultural capital. Istanbul is the financial capital. Istanbul is the largest city in Turkey, and the population of Istanbul is approximately 17 million. The third largest city is in the Aegean coast. It is Izmir in here. There are approximately 4 million people living there as well. And as for geography a little, here near the Iranian border, we have Mount Ararat. That's the highest peak in Turkey. And then we have Lake Van, the largest lake in Turkey. The second largest lake, Lake Tuz in central Anatolia, near Cappadocia. It is a salt lake. More than 40% of the salt that we use in Turkey comes from this lake. And in the eastern part of Turkey, we have two rivers. These are the rivers mentioned in the Bible. One of them is the Euphrates River, and the other is the Tigris River here. They originate from the high mountains of eastern Anatolia, and they flow down to Syria and Iraq. And the land in between these two rivers has been named as Mesopotamia throughout history. And as for our crops in Turkey, Turkey was one of the 8 self-sufficient countries in the world. We grow almost everything in Turkey except for tropical crops. For example, the Black Sea region is the place where we have a lot of tea plantations. And here in this area, we have hazelnuts. And then we have apricots in this area, pistachio nuts in here, peanuts are here, bananas, small-sized bananas, cherries, citrus trees, figs, olives, sunflowers, saffron, and very high-quality grapes are grown in Turkey as well. If we take a look at the figures of Food and Agriculture Organization from 2016, for example, Turkey was ranking #1 in the world in the production of, in growing hazelnuts, cherries, figs, and apricots. So this is a big deal. #1 in the world, hazelnuts, cherries, figs, and apricots. Turkey ranks #2 in the world with melons, watermelons, and quinces. And Turkey ranks #3 with sour cherries, chestnuts, pistachio nuts, and cucumbers. So this is not a joke. There is a great deal of production of these crops, and it is worldwide, So let me just show you a few photos of the geographical places that I just mentioned. For example, this is a beautiful photograph of Mount Ararat near the Iranian border. And this is the largest lake in Turkey, Lake Van. This is also very close to the Iranian border. This is the salt lake that I was mentioning. And here is a beautiful picture of the Euphrates River. And here is another map for the geographical regions of Turkey. Not all around the country, we have the same climate, same geography. So we have differences between these regions. That's why we divided our country into 7 geographical regions. This little area around the Sea of Marmara is named as the Marmara region. And this section near the Aegean Sea is the Aegean region. The whole area going parallel to the Mediterranean coastline is the Mediterranean region. Likewise, the area going parallel to the Black Sea coastline is the Black Sea region. And this middle land is the Central Anatolia region. And we have two more regions, one Eastern Anatolia, and the other one in here is the Southeastern Anatolia. So these regions have different characteristics as well. Now we can come to our topic, the Turkish cuisine. You know, definitely Turkish cuisine is one of the best in the world, but unfortunately not many people are familiar with this fact. Those people who have been to Turkey before, they have tried the Turkish cuisine, so they know that. But those people who haven't been to Turkey yet, unfortunately, they are not aware of the fact that Turkish cuisine is one of the best cuisines in the world. Why Turkish food is so delicious? Why is it so good? Because a wide range of civilizations from history, a variety of styles, and an abundant food supply have all contributed to Turkey's food, today's Turkish cuisine. So it's actually a fusion and refinement of Central Asian, Middle Eastern, Mediterranean, Eastern European, and Balkan cuisines. So it is the combination of all. That's why it is so rich. We have two very commonly used expressions about food in Turkey. One of them is afiyet olsun, meaning like enjoy the meal. Whatever you are having, whatever you are drinking, this is such a common expression that we use. We use this expression before starting a meal, or during a meal, or after a meal. So you can use this expression all day long, afiyet olsun, enjoy whatever you are having. That is the meaning. And after the food is finished, you want to thank the chef, you want to thank the host, you want to thank the person who invited you to a meal. You say elinize sağlık, meaning health to your hands. So thank you. It's a different way of expressing thank you for food. And another word from Turkey is şerefe. This is when we make a toast. Şeref means honor. Şerefe means to honor. So we make a toast saying şerefe, to your honor. So honor is a very important concept in our culture. Because Turkey has been a crossroads, you know, the Silk Road passed through here, and the Persian Royal Road passed through here, and the Assyrian traders had their trade routes in here. We have had so many trade routes in the lands of Anatolia. So those caravans bringing food, bringing spices all the way from India and from the south, they always pass through Anatolia. And as a result, we have a big variety of spices in Turkey. But the most common ones are going to be cumin, the black pepper, the thyme, the sumac, and saffron. We also grow saffron. Very high quality of saffron is grown in Turkey. So they are mostly the available spices in Turkey. Bread. Bread, you know, the Turkish people eat a lot of bread. For example, a family of 4 people or 5 people will be eating like 4, 5, 6 loaves of bread like this. This is the most typical bread that we eat in Turkey. But other than this typical bread, we also have the pita bread, this one in here. We call it pide, and this one is the lavash bread, thin layers of pastry, a little bit cooked, and we can make a wrap with it. We can try many different things with that. So now I would like to start with breakfast. Breakfast is very important in our culture. You know, you can eat breakfast in every country in the world and not find anything that compares with a Turkish breakfast. So it is very unusual, and we eat lots of interesting things for breakfast. First of all, let me focus on the word breakfast, kahvaltı. This word for breakfast in the Turkish language comes from 2 different words, kahvaltı, meaning before coffee. The Turkish people never have coffee during breakfast. It is always the tea. So after we finish the breakfast, it is the coffee time. So that's why breakfast means before coffee. So you have something before you have your coffee. Tea is very important in our culture. All day long, we drink so many glasses of traditional style tea. We use these tulip-shaped tiny glasses and we do refills. An average Turk is going to drink about 10, 15, sometimes 20 glasses of tea every day. You go to a shop to buy something, they offer you a glass of tea there. And then you see a friend, he says, let's have a tea here. You go and visit people in their homes, they offer tea there. So tea all day long. Tea is the biggest drink in Turkey rather than coffee. Coffee is something that we have after the meals. So people typically would not have coffee more than once or twice a day, but tea all day long. So we don't use tea bags in Turkey in the traditional way, and we have two teapots in two different sizes. One is a little smaller and the other is bigger. The small one is going to fit on top of the other one, and we put the loose tea in the upper one, and we add hot water in it. And in the lower teapot, it is boiling water. While serving the tea, we put a little bit of the tea from the upper teapot and we dilute it with hot water later on, depending on the taste you like. If you like it strong, you add more tea. If you like it light, you add more water in it. This is how tea is served. This is the most traditional glass and the tea plates that we use in our culture. Other than that, in the Turkish breakfast, we eat a lot of tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, sometimes parsley, and they are always available in the Turkish breakfast. Turkey is a country in which we grow a lot of animals, of course, and as a result, a big variety of cheeses are available in our culture. In every region, there is a special cheese. So if you are able to collect these cheeses, you have a big variety of cheeses on your table. So it plays an important role in our breakfasts. But the most common cheese is the white cheese. It is obtained or it is made with the cow's milk. And it is called as the white cheese. I think it is similar to the Greek feta cheese. Other than that, we have the braided cheese, we have the yellow cheese, we have the cheese with some spices in them. So a big variety of them are available. Turkey is a country of olives. So we grow a lot of olives. We have a lot of olive oil, and you go to the marketplace and you want to buy olive, you go to the olive place and you are able to pick olives from among 20 or 30 different kinds of olives from the olive store. So there is such a big selection of olives in our culture. Then we continue with breakfast options. We have omelets, of course, but there is a special omelet which we call as menemen. Menemen is the Turkish name for this kind of omelet. It's kind of scrambled eggs, but in this scrambled eggs, there's tomatoes inside, and there's green pepper, onions, and olive oil, and all cooked together. And they generally serve it together with the pan where it is cooked. This is also a very common practice in our culture. Menemen is delicious. You should definitely try it if you haven't tried it before. Sucuk is something that we eat a lot in Turkey. It is ground meat with garlic and spices. So we make eggs with sucuk, or we make toast bread with sucuk together with cheese and so on. This is something very special, the word pastrami. The Turkish word for pastrami is pastırma. It comes from the word bastırma. It is kind of pressed meat. So there is a city in Turkey near Cappadocia in central Anatolia, and this city is called as Kayseri, and Kayseri is famous with its pastırma. So what is pastırma? Pastırma is cured beef. The good quality meat is salted and covered with a paste. And this paste outside, you can see the paste outside of the meat. It is prepared with crushed cumin, fenugreek, garlic, and hot paprika. And then it is air dried. So when you go to the store, they slice it for you. Sometimes you can get it with no fat in it. Sometimes you can get it with a lot of fat in it. Then we have, of course, an important part of the Turkish breakfast is the honey with the kaymak. Kaymak is the white stuff in here. It is the milk cream. Generally, better quality kaymak is obtained from the buffalo milk. When you boil the milk, there is a layer of the cream on top of the milk, and you get it and you roll it up, and it is a wonderful dish for breakfast, and you can mix it with honey. And in Turkey, still in the hotels, in families, there are many people who eat the honey in the honeycomb. So we are able to buy the honey in the honeycomb, and we serve it in the honeycomb, and this is the traditional way, and we continue with this tradition in here. Then I have to mention the word simit, S-I-M-I-T, as you see in here. Simit is the crispy bread ring, and it is covered with sesame seeds outside. It is really crispy. It is delicious. And it goes so well with a glass of tea. And sometimes we eat breakfast together with simit. You know, we eat so many things for breakfast, but it doesn't mean that the average people will be eating all of these and every day. Of course, there's no such a thing. But, you know, just a simit and a tea will make a breakfast sometimes, or some pastries together with a glass of tea will make a breakfast as well. We sometimes have soup for breakfast. So soup is also a part of the breakfast. So we have pastries for breakfast, but pastries also all day long as well. Pastries, layers of phyllo filled with cheese, filled with ground meat, filled with veggies, and it is baked in the oven, and we have 100 different kinds of börek, and this is the pastry. As you see, sometimes the phyllo dough is filled with spinach, cheeses, and then it is rolled up, and then we place it in a tray and we bake it in the oven, and it becomes crisp, and it is also something superb. These are different kinds of pastries, you know, little simit and poğaça, we call them in general. We eat a lot of these for breakfast. Let's say you go to work and you don't have time for breakfast. On your way, you stop, you know, in one of the pastry shops, you get a few of these and you go to your workplace and get your tea, and you eat these pastries together with the tea, and this is your breakfast. This is also a very common practice. This is gözleme. This is a village dish in rural parts of the country. Villagers, the ladies would be making it, you know. There is going to be a wooden table, a very low one, because they will be sitting on the floor. And by using the rolling pin, they try to make the phyllo dough by using their hands as well, the rolling pin and the hands. And they make the phyllo dough, and they fill it with lots of ingredients: eggs, cheeses, ground meat, eggplant, potatoes, spinach, whatever you like. You can make a mixed plate as well. And then there is a concave metal plate, which is heated from the bottom. And you put the phyllo dough on top of this metal concave plate, and you turn it over. Then you roll it up, and you add some butter in it, and it makes a very delicious breakfast as well. One of the most common dishes that we have for breakfast is the tahini and pekmez. You know, we get them separately, but if we're going to eat it for breakfast, we need to mix them together, and then we eat it like that. We can put it on our bread, or we can dip our bread in it. Tahini is the sesame oil, and pekmez is the molasses. Molasses is made from the grapes, is made from the plums. You can obtain it from a few different crops. And it is also a village dish. For example, on one of my tours, while passing through a village in Cappadocia, we saw villagers making molasses. They harvest the grapes, and then they put them on wooden containers, and they step on them, they get the juice out, and then they start boiling the juice from the grapes for many, many hours. Then it becomes molasses, and you keep it under the sun for a few days, if I'm not mistaken, and then put it in the bottle, and it is going to be used during the winter months. It is commonly used. And after finishing breakfast, now it is time to have coffee. Now, Turkish coffee is more like a ritual than just a drink. You have to prepare it in a certain way, And while serving the coffee, if you don't have this foamy layer on top, it is not accepted to be a good quality coffee. The way that you prepare it, the way that you present it is like a ritual in our culture. Turkey is not a country in which we have coffee. We buy coffee from outside, from some of the South American countries or some Arab countries also, and we roast it, and then we finally grind it. This is the grinder in here. And later on, we use this coffee pot, which is made out of copper and covered with tin inside. On a charcoal, generally, we put the finely ground coffee together with water. And then if you like, you can add some sugar in advance, stir it on low heat. When it starts rising up, you're going to pour it into the coffee cup and serve it like that. Speaking about coffee, I have to also, of course, mention this. It was the Turks who introduced coffee to Europe. How do you think this happened? The Turkish people, in the Ottoman times, in the 16th and 17th centuries, went up until Vienna for the sieges of Vienna. 2 unsuccessful sieges of Vienna, and then we had to retreat. So in the 17th century, when we went to Vienna to conquer, with no success, when they decided to retreat, they didn't want to be carrying everything back. So they left some of the things there. And among those things which the Turkish people left behind was green coffee beans in the sacks. So the Viennese people, up until then, didn't know about coffee. They didn't know what it was. They found those green beans in the sacks, and they thought they were camel feet. So they wanted to get rid of them. They wanted to burn them with fire. So while burning, there was this beautiful smell of the coffee. And by coincidence, over there was a Polish interpreter who had become a coffee addict during his 11 years when he stayed in Istanbul. So he was familiar with the smell of the coffee. Of course, he warned the Viennese people, and Viennese people tried this coffee and they enjoyed it, and they called it as Turkish coffee. So the rest of Europe learned about coffee right after this. Then I have to talk about soups. As I said, soups play an important role for breakfast. For many people, especially in the rural parts of the country, a bowl of soup is going to be the breakfast itself. So what kind of soups do we have in Turkey? The most common one is the tarhana. This is a homemade soup, an instant soup. How do we make it? We use yogurt for it. And then we add flour in the yogurt. We add lots of vegetables in the yogurt, and we add lots of herbs. And then we ferment. After a few days of fermentation, it is like a dough. Then we make tiny pieces of it. We spread pieces of cloth around the rooms inside our homes. And then we try to dry them in room temperature. And we make it smaller and smaller. After a few days, they are going to be dry pieces. Then we're going to rub it with our hands. And then we will obtain a powder like this in here. So it is instant soup. So you can use it during the winter months. You can mix it with a few different ingredients, with meat, without meat, whatever you like. When you mix it with hot water and stir it, and here you are, you have soup. It is very healthy. First of all, it is fermented, and then there are no chemicals inside. Everything is natural, everything is organic, and it is a beautiful dish. The other unusual soup in Turkey is the yayla soup. Yayla soup is the yogurt soup. And we cook this soup with yogurt, and we add rice inside. And then while serving it, we add a lot of mint on top together with olive oil. So this is also something that you should try in Turkey, the yogurt soup. Other than that, we have lentil soup almost everywhere. In every restaurant, always lentil soup will be available. One version of lentil soup is the ezogelin soup. The main material for the ezogelin is lentil, but in this one, additionally, we use some bulgur, pounded wheat, and we use lots of spices inside, and then the color changes but the main material is still the lentil. So after the soups, now we can maybe speak about the offals. Like many other cuisines around the world, Turkish cuisine does not waste any part of an animal. So we eat almost every part of the animals. So these parts of the animals are going to be the tripe, the head, the feet, the brain, the tongue, intestines, the liver. So they are all available in every part of the country. For example, this is the tripe soup. You see the chopped pieces of the tripe, and then they serve it plain like this. But when you have a bowl of tripe soup on the table, there is a procedure that you should do. You need to add vinegar in it. You need to add very strong garlic sauce inside, and then paprika on top, and then maybe black pepper a little bit, maybe some thyme on top. So depending on your taste, you're going to decorate it with lots of spices, and then it will be delicious. This is pacha. What do you think pacha is? What do you see in here? This is also a soup, but offal. This is a sheep leg, one of the healthiest food in Turkey. You know, inside the leg, inside the bone, are the healthy parts, the juice, and you make soup with that. Generally, many people have this soup for medicinal purposes. So if you have cold, you have the pacha soup, the sheep leg soup, and you know it is really helpful. Now I would like to mention a little bit about street food. All around the streets of our cities in Turkey are filled with delicious food, but you have to know what you should eat and where you should eat. You cannot try everything everywhere. That's why it is important to know. This is roasted chestnut. Roasted chestnut is available everywhere in every city. But this is something very interesting, and this one is called as kokoreç. Think about horizontally lying skewers, and lamb intestines are wrapped around these skewers, and they put some fat inside, and then they wrap these intestines around the fat. And then for many hours, it is grilled like this. Behind these revolving sticks, there is charcoal behind. And when it is cooked, grilled like that, you chop it into tiny pieces. You add some tomatoes in it, and thyme in it, and pepper in it, red pepper in it, and salt in it. And then you can make a sandwich with it, like this, or you can serve it in a plate like that, or you can get slices of it and serve it as whole pieces on the plate as well. So kokoreç is one of the delicacies in our culture as a street food. Here's an interesting dish. These are the roasted sheep heads. It may look disgusting, but you need to try it a little bit. So when you go to a street food place for sheep heads, the sheep heads will be ready there, available, hot, cooked from before, roasted from before. Then the guy is going to clean it up for you. He's going to cut it into pieces and get rid of the bones, and he's going to decorate a plate with pieces from the sheep head. See, this one here this part here is the tongue of the animal, and here are the cheeks, and then the other parts of the head. And generally, these places are available near the pubs, I mean beer houses, and you order your beer from the pub, and you order this from the nearby sheephead place, and you eat them and you drink them together. These are fried liver. It is also a delicacy. Near the Bulgarian border, we have a city called Edirne. Edirne was the second capital of the Ottoman Empire before Istanbul became the capital. And Edirne is famous for its fried liver, for example. In Edirne, you can find a lot of fried liver. This is a very interesting dish. It is not commonly found. It's a special dish. These are lamb intestines stuffed with rice and tiny particles, tiny pieces of livers inside. They stuff them and they cook them first, and then they grill them in butter, and it makes a delicious plate. Speaking about or continuing with the street food, all around the city, there are street vendors like this guy with a tray on his head, and he has simits. He gets them from the nearby bakery, and generally they serve it very fresh right from the bakery, and you get one piece of this or two pieces of this, and then you go to a cafe, order a glass of tea, and you can easily make a meal instead of eating lunch. If you have one ring of simit together with a glass of tea, you can save the day, for example. This is a bakery in which the simits are made, and this is how they are making them. As I said, together with a glass of tea, the simit would go so perfectly. If you can add a slice of cheese as well, it will be superb. In Istanbul or in the coastal areas, this is going to be available only in the coastal areas and also in Istanbul. This is balık ekmek. Balık is fish, ekmek is bread. So this is fish and bread. For example, in the old city of Istanbul, near the Galata Bridge, there are little boats, and from these boats, they are selling the fish sandwiches. These fish sandwiches are made with grilled mackerel, and they add some salads in it. It is just a plain bread, and they make a sandwich with it, and they serve it directly from the boat. And available there also pickle juice. Pickle juice is an important part of our culture. We have special pickle stores in our culture. They pickle almost everything. You know, we don't use chemicals in these pickles. It is just the salt. These vegetables or sometimes fruits, we pickle them. It is fermented by itself. We sometimes put tiny pieces of chickpeas so that it's going to speed up the fermentation. And we eat the fruits or vegetables from these pickles, and we drink the juice from it. And the juice from it is good for the immune system of the body because of the fermentation inside. It is accepted to be healthy food as well. In every corner, all around, we have little stands or kiosks selling fresh fruit juice. So you have a big variety of these fruits depending on the season. Sometimes it will be oranges mostly, sometimes it's going to be pomegranates, or sometimes it's going to be a mixture as well. Speaking about the Turkish cuisine, one of the most common dishes is going to be the döner kebab. Döner means revolving. You know, there's a spit here, vertically standing, and they put meat all around it, and there is charcoal right behind. And in order to roast all parts of this spit, they revolve it little by little, and then they get slices from it. Döner kebab is served in a few different ways. If it is the street food, we can make a wrap with the lavash bread with some vegetables inside, and together with a glass of ayran, the yogurt drink, it will make a very good meal. Sometimes you can put it like a sandwich in the pita bread. So whatever you prefer, you can have the sandwich with that specific bread. And this one is the pide sandwich, and the previous one is the lavash wrap. And when it is a wrap, we call it as the dürüm. This kebab is similar to the döner kebab, but this one is called as cağ kebab. This dish comes from Erzurum. Erzurum is the name of a city from the eastern part of Turkey, somewhere very close to the border area in the east, Erzurum. There is also spit here, but this spit is not vertical. This is horizontal. And you see meat is put on the skewer. And then the guy, the chef, is getting slices from here, but these slices are put on a tiny skewer in here, and he re-grills them a little more and then makes a sandwich with it or whatever. This dish is tantuni. It comes from the Mediterranean coast. There is a city called Mersin, not too far away from Antioch, for example, not too far away from Tarsus, the birthplace of St. Paul on the Mediterranean. So Mersin is famous with this dish, tantuni dish. It is a very good, very delicious, very practical street food all around Turkey now. It's everywhere now. Chopped pieces of meat is cooked here. He adds some oil inside, he adds some other spices inside, and he's going to make a sandwich with it, or he's going to make a wrap with the lavash bread as well. In our culture, there is something very unusual. We have something which is called as wet hamburger. Wet hamburger is pre-cooked, prepared from before, and they are steamed. And they are steamed with tomato sauce. So it's always ready, available, faster than the fast food. You know, you go to the wet hamburger kiosk and you order your hamburgers. 2 seconds later, you are holding it in your hand and you can start eating it. So the bread, together with the tomato sauce, together with the steam, is always damp, humid, and it is delicious. So you don't feel the bread as a dry part. Then baked potatoes. We have large potatoes. They are baked, and then you go to a window. This is also a street food, and a big variety of choices for you, like corn, like pickles, like lots of other things, carrots and greens, vegetables, whatever you may like. So what they do, they cut the potato from the top a little bit, and then they mash the potato with butter. It is still hot. It comes out from the oven. And then you add the ingredients on top, and they serve it with a piece of spoon. It is street food. You can eat it on one of the benches around or whatsoever. This dish also is a very common street food. We call it as nohut pilav. Nohut is chickpeas. Pilav is rice. You see, they sell nohut pilav from the push cart. So the push cart is filled with a lot of rice, and inside the rice are chickpeas, and on top is the chicken. So let's say you are going home and you're hungry, and in one of the main streets on the right-hand side, you're going to see one of those vendors. You're going to pull over, grab one, and eat on the way and arrive home with full stomach. Very practical. Nohut pilav. This one is çiğ köfte. It is actually raw meat, if we translate the word. Çiğ is raw. Köfte is meatballs, actually. So this is raw bulgur, pounded wheat, with spices and pomegranate sauce inside. Sometimes they will serve it with the lavash bread, and they will make a wrap with it. They will put some lettuce in it. They will add some parsley in it, and you're going to squeeze some lemon. Or forget about the lavash bread, get the lettuce and put some of the raw meat or raw bulgur inside and make a wrap and eat it with the lettuce. In the original çiğ köfte, they used to use meat inside, and the meat wouldn't be cooked, would be raw. It would be treated with the spices inside. But for hygiene purposes, now in the street food places, the use of meat has been forbidden. So they don't use meat anymore. Only in some notable restaurants, they still make it with meat inside, the raw meat inside. Stuffed mussels. Turkey is surrounded by seas in three sides. Are we good in fishing? Not really, but we're not so bad either. One of the street food options is stuffed mussels. How is that? So the mussels are cleaned with a knife from outside, and then they open it and they add some cooked rice inside, and then they close the lid again, and maybe they steam it a little more. So when you eat it in the street, people sell them in their stands. The guy is going to prepare it for you. He's going to open it up, and you're going to use one of the shells to scoop it out, squeeze lemon on it. I know, especially in the Aegean region, for example, in the city of Izmir, people are so much used to eating stuffed mussel that they can, and I know some people who can eat maybe 50 of them, 100 of them at one time. So the guy selling it will be preparing it for you, and then you're going to eat it and throw it into the garbage, eat it, throw it into the remaining mussels into the garbage, and then he's going to count, and then you will pay. Fried mussels So we stuff the mussels or we fry the mussels. We serve it together with a garlic sauce, and we make a sandwich with this one as well. It is a very common dish in the street food. Now I would like to mention a little bit about lokantas. Lokanta is going to be a different kind of restaurant, traditional style, generally for shopkeepers in the business areas. So sometimes it is self-service, sometimes it is the waiters who are bringing the food. But this is similar to a cafeteria, but in this one, they serve traditional dishes. In my view, we can regard them as fast food restaurant with traditional food, but healthy food. So in this kind of restaurant, you will go to the window. There's going to be a big variety of dishes there. Soups in one corner and vegetables, meat dishes, rice always, maybe some pasta. So you will take a look, pick a few things, and a few minutes later, it's on your table and everything is ready. Everything is cooked from before. So you don't need to wait. Everything is fast. And after you finish, you make your payment and leave. Let's say you're busy, you have a shop, you have a business, you cannot leave your place, so you will call the nearby restaurant, Lokanta. They are going to deliver the food to your place, and then they will send the boy later to get the empty plates afterwards. So the food that they cook in these kinds of places is not the same every day. They don't have the same menu every day, depending on the season, depending on the availability of the ingredients. The food that they cook will change every day. For example, some restaurants will say, every Friday we have homemade baklava, every Thursday we have the tripe soup. So they have days for some certain special dishes as well. So in these restaurants, generally, as I said, they have traditional dishes. Each time you go to the same restaurant, you are going to see different dishes there. So you will be curious to go there. You will be wondering what food they have for today. So it's all up to the season, it's all up to the chef, and he will be making different dishes there. Beans are very important in our culture. We eat beans a lot, together with, of course, rice, and it is a very common dish. For example, in the area of Süleymaniye Mosque, the famous mosque built by Sultan Süleyman the Magnificent in Istanbul, there is a traditional restaurant from 1939. It is called as Ali Baba, and people go there just to eat beans and rice, nothing else. But it is delicious rice, delicious beans. You know, there is not even meat inside. It is just plain beans, and you just add rice to it, maybe some pickles, a yogurt drink, perfect meal. Bulgur rice is also important in our traditional dishes. This is wheat. Sometimes it is pounded, sometimes as a whole piece. This is a very common village dish. In every village, people prepare the bulgur from summer months. For example, this is a photo from one of my tours. And while passing through a village, we saw people pounding wheat in the village center. We stopped the bus. We went to visit the villagers. And you see, some of the gentlemen from our group are helping the villagers in pounding the wheat. We have chances like this on our tours. This one here, we call it as Hünkar beğendi, translated like Sultan has liked it, or Sultan's delight. This is chopped lamb pieces served on eggplant puree. You see, it is pureed eggplant at the bottom and then meat on top. Two different looks for the same dish. Sometimes they use beef instead of lamb as well. But this is one of the most traditional food from our culture. Moussaka. I think Greek people have this dish as well. The way that they prepare it is a little more different. This is how we prepare moussaka. We fry the eggplant first, and we place it in the bottom of the pot or a frying pan. And then we roast the ground meat with spices, with pepper, with chopped vegetables inside. And then after it is cooked, we spread it all around the fried eggplant, and then we rebake it or we recook it together with the meat all together. Then it is ready to serve. Moussaka, a very common eggplant dish. Eggplant is a big deal in our culture. We make 100 different plates, dishes from eggplant. Eggplant is in every part of our cuisine. For example, this one is called as karnı yarık. So you take the eggplant, you cut it in the middle, and you open a space in the middle, and then the ground meat, which you are going to cook with onions and tomato paste and tomatoes and everything, and then you're going to fill it up, and then you're going to cook this together with the ingredients a little more, either on the stove or in the oven. Then it's going to be ready to serve. But we have a similar dish like this. This one, we call it as imam bayıldı. This one doesn't have any meat. Instead of meat, we fill it up with veggies. So if there is no meat, it is served as an appetizer, as a cold dish. So it is an olive oil dish. We generally use it as an appetizer. And the name is interesting. Imam has liked it, or Imam fainted. You can translate the name into two different ways, whichever you like more. Stuffed vegetables is a big deal also in our culture. We stuff almost everything. We stuff eggplant. The stuffing material is always rice, or sometimes bulgur rice, sometimes cheese as well, but mostly it is rice. So we stuff eggplant, we stuff cabbage leaves, we stuff pepper, we stuff kale leaves. You see, this is kale leaves. And we stuff wine leaves. So whatever you stuff, then it is called as dolma. And dolma means stuffed anyway. So the dolma dishes are very commonly seen. This one is called as güveç. Güveç is the name of the earthenware casserole. Whatever you cook in an earthenware casserole, it is called as güveç. So you can cook veggies, you can cook meat, you can cook beef, whatever you cook, it is called as güveç. Güveç is the name for the casserole. Actually, when you cook something in an earthenware pot, it is, I'm sure, 5 or 10 times more delicious than whatever it would be when you cooked it in a metal pot, for example. When you cook it in an earthenware pot, this pot will be an old one. You will be using the same pot for tens of years maybe. And when you cook it in an earthenware pot, you don't add extra juice in it. Everything cooks in its own juice. So it is the juice of the meat, it is the juice of the vegetables. That's why it becomes more delicious. What do you think these are? These are cloves. In the old days, in the traditional lifestyle, after the meals, people would chew a few of these in order to get rid of the bad smell in your mouth, especially after eating onions or garlic and so on. So karanfil is the Turkish name for it. Now I want to say a few words about kebabs. Kebab is such a generic name. I don't know what exactly a kebab is. We use the word kebab for almost everything. So if you want to make a definition of the kebab, I could say, or we could say, roasted, broiled, or grilled meat prepared in a special way. Let's take a look at them. Let's see a few examples of kebabs. For example, the meat that we cook in the skewer, the vertical one, is called as the döner kebab. We can eat it like a street food in a sandwich, or we can eat it in an elegant way together with some mashed eggplant puree here, some vegetables, some rice, some lamb, and this is the döner kebab. So it makes a very elegant looking dish. This one is one of my favorites. We call it İskender kebab. İskender is the Turkish word for Alexander. So in some of the restaurants, you're going to see the name as Alexander kebab. This is a dish which was started in the city of Bursa. Bursa is the major city, which is like 1 or 2 hour drive from Istanbul on the other side of the Marmara Sea. And Bursa was actually the first capital of the Ottoman Empire. So the meat here is the meat from the döner kebab, from the vertically standing skewer. What is İskender kebab? The pide bread is going to be chopped, and then together with butter, it's going to be spread at the bottom of the plate. And then you're going to take the slices of the meat from the döner kebab and cover the whole bread all around the plate. And then you add tomato sauce all over, and then melted butter all over, and then some yogurt on the side, and then some pepper, some tomatoes, whatever. So this is one of the most delicious dishes from our culture. If you haven't tried this, definitely this should be in your list. Then we have Adana kebab or Urfa kebab. Adana is the name of a city near the city of Antioch on the Mediterranean coast. Urfa or Şanlıurfa is the name of a city from southeastern part of Turkey near the Syrian border. So the two look alike. We use a white skewer, which would fit in our hand, for example, and then the ground meat will be put around the skewer, and you're going to grill it on the charcoal, and then you're going to serve it with the lavash bread, with vegetables, with bulgur rice a little bit. So this is going to be a kebab. Then what is the difference between Adana and Urfa kebab? When the meat is hot, I mean with hot pepper, spicy hot, it is called as Adana. When the meat is not hot, then it is called as Urfa kebab. So this is the only difference between the two. We have the similar meat from the skewer, but in between pieces of eggplant. Then we call this dish as the eggplant kebab. Then we have the shish kebab. We have the chickens, we have the lamb, we have the beef, and whenever you put the chopped pieces of meat on the skewer and grill it on the charcoal, it is named as the shish kebab. So the name of the skewer is shish. That's why it is called as the shish kebab. And instead of metal skewer, sometimes they use tiny pieces from the reeds as skewers. Then the meat is smaller pieces. This time it is called as çöp shish. This is also a different kind of shish kebab. One of my favorites from the city of Gaziantep. Gaziantep is also a city near the Syrian border in southeastern part of Turkey. Gaziantep is the city which is famous with its baklavas. But from Gaziantep, this kebab is very famous, and the name is Ali Nazik. What is it? You barbecue eggplant, and then you peel it, and then you mash it. You mix it with maybe some milk and some cream and so on. So at the bottom, it is pureed eggplant together with yogurt. And then you put the barbecued or grilled meat pieces, ground meat on top, and then melted butter all over, and then some paprika all over, then perfect. This one comes from Siirt. Siirt is also another city from the east, southeast, and this is lamb. They prepare the whole piece of lamb, I mean the sheep, and they put it in the well oven, underground wells, which is burned from the bottom. And the sheep will hang there for many, many hours. Then they will take it out, hang it in the restaurant. And when you order this büryan kebab, you will say 150 grams, no fat, or you will say medium fat, or you will say a lot of fat. So they will serve it accordingly. You will add some spices on it, and it will be a perfect dish. This is from Antioch, tepsi kebab. Tepsi means tray. So tray kebab, see, ground meat, and it is mixed with some vegetables, and then tomato sauce, and pepper, and tomato, and onions, and then you bake it in the wood oven, and it will make a very nice dish. In almost every kebab restaurant in Turkey, we have something called as lahmacun. Similar to pizza, but no connection to pizza. Think about a dough, phyllo dough, made by hand, but not as thin as like in the pastries, a little thicker. Then you cover the whole dough with spicy mixture of ground meat, lamb meat or mixed meat with onions, tomatoes, parsley, and then you bake it in the oven, just like that. When it comes out from the oven, when it is served, they serve it with some parsley and lemon. All you are supposed to do, you will add parsley on it and then squeeze some lemon And then you're going to make a roll. You will just roll it up, and together with the yogurt drink, it goes very well. What is this yogurt drink? This yogurt drink is the most common drink that we drink in Turkey. We call it as ayran. It is similar to buttermilk. We call it ayran. It is a refreshing drink. It is made with yogurt. You add water in the yogurt, plain yogurt, no ingredients, plain yogurt with water and salt, and you whip it together, and that's it. When you whip it well, you will obtain some foam on top, and it will even look better like that. So especially together with the spicy food, ayran will take away the disturbing taste of the spices, and it will cool off a little bit, and the two will match together. Then we have köfte. Köfte is a very generic name. We use this word for meatballs. Although we call it like a meatball, sometimes it is not going to be in the shape of a ball. Sometimes it will be in the shape of fingers, for example. So in almost every city in Turkey has its own köfte. So we can find 100 different köftes all around Turkey. Even in the same city, we may find a few different kinds. So these are the grilled or fried meatballs, and available everywhere. Sometimes they serve it on the pide bread together with onions and pepper, sometimes with salad, sometimes with pepper paste, sometimes with butter and grilled tomatoes and parsley on the side. These are all meatballs. Or there's a city called Eskişehir, for example, and Eskişehir is famous with its balaban köfte. Like in the Alexander kebab, at the bottom of the plate, you see there are some cut pieces of the pide bread, and then the grilled meatballs all over, tomato sauce, and then yogurt as well. This is my hometown near Izmir, Ödemiş köfte. So the bread is dipped in butter together with red pepper. It's a little bit spicy, and then grilled meatballs in the shape of fingers all over, tomatoes and pepper, delicious. Now, similar to lahmacun, I would like to mention about the pide. We could also say like Turkish pizza, but very different than a regular pizza. So what is a pide? It comes in different shapes. It comes with different ingredients. But generally speaking, it is a thick dough filled or covered with any combination of meat, cheese, mushrooms, eggs, vegetables, whatever. So there's no limit with the ingredients. And then you bake it in the wood oven, and right after the oven, it's on your table, and you can add some butter on top. And then, or sometimes before it is cooked fully, you take it out from the oven and you break an egg on top. Depending on how you like the egg, you can cook it a little more, or you can cook it very shortly and then serve the pide. Different ingredients, different sizes, different shapes, they are all pide. For example, in my hometown, after they make the pide, they put cheese all over, and it is butter here, also another superb dish. Mantı is the Turkish ravioli, tiny pieces of the phyllo dough filled with ground meat with spices, and then you boil these pieces. After the boiling process, you put it in the plate, you add some garlic yogurt and spices on it, and it's a delicious dish. This is from the same place where the pastrami comes. Kayseri is the place. Now I would like to talk about the meyhane and the fish restaurants. So the lokanta was the fast food restaurant, generally for the shopkeepers, as I said. And meyhane, or the fish restaurant, or the kebab restaurants will be for mostly dinners. If you want to sit down for a long time, eat, talk, drink, you need to go to a meyhane or a fish restaurant. So a meyhane would be the traditional Turkish tavern, which serves food with alcohol, with mezes, appetizers. So a similar version of this with seafood will be the fish restaurants. Fish restaurants are along the Bosphorus. Wonderful view in summer months, in spring, in fall. It's going to be one of the greatest pleasures in the whole world. The view is good, the weather is good, and the food is superb. You should, of course, definitely try some of these experiences. What do we drink in these fish restaurants or in these meyhanes? The most common drink, alcoholic drink, is the rakı. And we also call it as the lion's milk. It is made with aniseed, and it is obtained from grapes. And it has this licorice taste. And Greek people call it as ouzo, 90 proof, 45% alcohol in this. So we drink this rakı. Sometimes you would regard it as the national drink as well. You would put some rakı in it. It is colorless. It is like water. And then you have to add water in it, dilute it with water. The moment you add water in it, it gets this milky color. We call it as the lion's milk. After a few glasses, you feel like a lion. We generally drink it in these kinds of glasses, and there are two glasses like that, one for water, one for the rakı mixed with water. You get one sip from the rakı and then one sip from water. And this is a long hour drink. You have mezes, you sit for many hours, you drink one glass, two glasses, three glasses. You save the humanity, you change everything, all the political problems, the problems of the world. After a few glasses, you are able to solve everything with this. Or wine. Wine is very important in our culture. You know, Turkey is one of the oldest countries in the world as for wine. These are some Bronze Age artifacts exhibited in the museums in Turkey. So Turkey, from the time of the Hittites, for example, the Bronze Age civilization, there have been wines all around. And some of the grapes of Turkey are unique in Turkey. You cannot find these grapes in other countries. That's why if you ever go to Turkey, instead of trying Chardonnay or Cabernet Sauvignon or whatever, you can have them everywhere. Of course, you can find many of them delicious ones in Turkey as well. I would suggest some indigenous grapes of Turkey, like, take a look here, Kalecik karası, or öküz gözü, or boğaz kere, or papaz karası, or karasakız, or çal karası, sultaniye, Bornova misketi, Emir, Narince. These grapes are available only in Turkey, and these are probably the second oldest grapes in the world. I mean, the oldest, as we know, are in Georgia. These are the regions where these specific grapes are grown, for example, different parts of the country, depending on the geography and so on, we have different qualities. Then I have to mention about the mezes. Mezes are the appetizers. Either in a meyhane or in a fish restaurant, when you sit down, the waiter is going to bring a big tray filled with samples of mezes. Instead of ordering one or two plates, the way that we eat, we order 5, 10 different plates for the table so that everyone can try a little bit of everything. So now I want to speak about these mezes, cold appetizers, one by one. This one is called as cacık. Cacık is made with yogurt. It is thick yogurt, and there's garlic in it. There is cucumber pieces in it, and you can put some olive oil on top, maybe a dill, cucumber pieces, and this is what it is. The Greek people call it as caciki. We call it as cacık. This one is also similar to cacık, but a little different. We call this one as haydari. It is also a yogurt, thick yogurt. It's a yogurt spread. There's garlic inside. We put a little bit of this on our bread, or we dip the bread in this one, haydari. So this is a must for those people who are having rakı, for example. Baba ganoush is the eggplant salad with yogurt inside, mashed eggplant mixed with yogurt, sometimes with garlic and olive oil and spices on it. Pilaki, beans cooked with garlic, tomato paste, carrot, and olive oil. So these mezes are served always cold. These are not served hot. These are olive oil dishes also. This is dolma, stuffed grape or stuffed vine leaves, I would say. When you serve it like this cold, it is an appetizer. If there is meat in it, then you serve it as a hot dish, then it is one of the main courses. So this one is an appetizer, is a meze. We call it as sarma. This one is fried liver, either in cubes or slices. It is served with onion, parsley, and hot pepper, but it is served as cold. So it is fried, but we eat it as a cold dish, like an appetizer. Liver. Fava. Fava is broad beans. We mash it, we boil it, we mash it, and we serve it together with olive oil and pieces of dill on top. It is a very nice appetizer as well. Çerkez tavuğu. So this is Circassian chicken, a beautiful appetizer, meze. It is chicken, poached chicken with walnut sauce inside. Hummus, everyone is familiar with hummus. It is mashed chickpeas mixed with tahini, garlic, olive oil, lemon juice, some decorative things on top. Or acılı ezme, hot, spicy, freshly mashed tomato spread with onions and green herbs, sometimes pickles as well. Or barbecued red peppers with garlic and vinegar sauce, walnuts too, spices too, köz biber, barbecued red pepper, or kısır, cooked bulgur with tomato paste, parsley, onion, garlic, and sour pomegranate sauce, and lots of spices. It goes well with lettuce leaves. Piyaz is a very common salad dish, also an appetizer. Boiled white beans, it's like a salad. And you have onions, you have tomatoes, you add vinegar or lemon juice in it, and sometimes you add slices of hard-boiled eggs, and delicious, very common meze. Eggplant salad. It is barbecued eggplant. It is first mashed and then served with olive oil and parsley. So you can make a decoration with parsley on top of that. Shakshuka, fried eggplant with lots of tomatoes or tomato sauce all over. You have to prepare it from before. It needs to cool off so that you can serve it as a cold dish, cold appetizer. Shepherd's salad, tomatoes, cucumbers, onions, a little bit of everything, served with olive oil, lemon juice, and vinegar. Rocket salad made with rocket leaves, cucumbers, and tomatoes. Then, when we are finished with the cold mezes on the table, the waiter will come and will ask for our orders for hot mezes. So we are not ready for the main courses yet. So hot mezes will be some dishes which are served hot, but still appetizers. As I said, we order many of these, but we don't eat a lot. We eat a little bit of everything, so that we can try many different things at the same time. So one of these hot mezes is the içli köfte. And içli köfte is bulgur outside and ground meat inside. It is fried or baked, and you can add some pine nuts inside or walnuts inside or other nuts inside. Pachanga is a kind of börek, pastry filled with pastrami and yellow cheese. Makes a delicious hot appetizer. Or mushrooms with yellow cheese inside, baked in the oven, or fried calamari, or fried squid, roasted shrimps, tiny local shrimps, cooked in butter, hot pepper, and spices. Then main courses. If it is a meyhane, either fish or meat dishes will be available there. Let's take a look at the fish dishes. The fish from Istanbul, for example, will be mostly the blue fish in here, the bonito in here, the sea bass here, sea bream, or the turbo fish, or the anchovies, or the horse mackerels. istavrit. For example, in my view, this is maybe one of the most delicious fish in the world, the bluefish. It is available in Istanbul and it is not common, it is not cheap, it is becoming rare, and that's why it is becoming more expensive. But sometimes, if we're lucky, we can get abundant of them, and it is one of the most delicious fish in the world. Generally speaking, the Turkish people like the fish as a whole piece. We want to see the head of the fish on the plate. So we generally eat them after grilling them on the charcoal. This is the turbo fish, the large one. It comes from the Black Sea. This is the bonito slices, fried. This is bonito, deboned and cooked with tomatoes and onions in the oven. This is anchovies, fried. Horse mackerels, very common fish in Istanbul. Now it is time for the desserts. You know, baklava. Turkey has a big variety of baklava from generally the city of Gaziantep. We have all different kinds of them. For example, layers of pastry, transparent layers made by hand, some 30, 40 different layers of this thin pastry filled with butter in between, pistachio nuts, walnuts, whatever you like inside, and then a layer of milk cream maybe. So you put them in different shapes, and it is, the best baklava in the world come from the city of Gaziantep, for example. This one is katmer, pastry layers filled with butter and milk cream inside, and then they bake them, and then they add a little bit of syrup on top. This is künefe, shredded wheat, and there is a layer of cheese inside. It is cooked in small pieces like this, and they serve it with pistachio, ground pistachio nuts on top, and the cheese inside is visible in here. Shredded wheat with pistachio nuts. The künefe is served hot. When it is without the cheese, when it is served cold, it is called as kadayıf, shredded wheat, and you can sometimes serve it with some ice cream, sometimes with the tahini sauce and walnut. These are the variations of it. And then this is like a dough dessert. We call it as ekmek kadayıfı, and there is milk cream on top of it. This is also a delicious dessert. Another dough-based dessert. It is made with dough. There is a little bit of cheese inside, and you add syrup on top. We call it as Kemal Pasha, and then hazelnuts on top. This is such an interesting dessert. This is tavuk göğsü, meaning chicken breast. This is like a thick milk pudding, but in this milk pudding, there are slices of chicken breast. So it gives the chewy texture. Literally, there is chicken in this dessert, in this milk pudding. Kazandibi is also another kind of milk pudding with a burnt surface. They intentionally burnt the surface. And this is rice pudding, a very, very common dish. We generally cook it in the earthenware pots like this. Or ashure, Noah's pudding. A little bit of everything is put in this pudding, and these are dried fruits and grains at home, and you can add fruits on top of that. Or when you make a dessert with dried fruits, we call it as hoşaf. We can use raisins, we can use dried prunes, apricots, or figs. We boil it in the water and add some sugar, and then we cool it off a little. Then it is ready to serve, hoşaf. The fruit desserts, for example, a quince dessert. Quince is cooked, and then we add sugar in it, and then we serve it together with the milk cream, kaymak. Or likewise, this is pumpkin dessert. This can be served with kaymak as well, or crushed walnuts. These are chestnuts, glacé chestnut, candied chestnuts. This is pishmaniye, a sweet meat made of sugar, flour, and butter, and it resembles the flax fibers. And helva is a flaky confection of crushed sesame seeds in a base of syrup. It comes with chocolate, it comes with pistachio nuts, it comes with many different ingredients. Turkish delights are delicious. We have a big variety of Turkish delights. We have them with lots of ingredients, and they are available everywhere. And then in the eastern part of Turkey, there is a city called Maraş. And Maraş is famous with its ice cream. And this is a thick ice cream, and they use goat milk for this ice cream, and it is enriched with salep. Salep is the ground wild orchid root. So it becomes very hard, thick, and when they serve it together with a knife and fork. And in the street vendors, you see the Maraş ice cream like this. So it is so thick, it is so sticky. From the same orchid root, when it is powdered, we mix it with milk and we boil it for a while. Then it becomes a winter drink, and we add cinnamon on top of that. In cold weather, when you have a cup of this, it warms you up. Then we have another traditional drink, which is boza. Boza is a fermented, sweetened drink made from corn or wheat, and we add roasted chickpeas on top. So it is half drinkable, half edible. It is very thick. And it is a fermented drink, but before it has alcohol, it is served. Some fruit drinks like sorbet, you can serve them with ice or sometimes with the real snow. So this is a small selection from our delicious Turkish cuisine. I hope I have been able to introduce you to the Turkish cuisine. And if you haven't been to Turkey yet, you are always welcome, and come here. Let's have all of these delicious foods together with a cup of tea or together with a cup of Turkish coffee. Well, thank you very much for your attention. I hope this pandemic will be over soon and we will be able to get back to normal and we will be able to travel all around the world again. Thank you. Bye-bye.